Hello, and welcome to the Splain. Dan Rothenberg and Joe Klosik, two guys trying to figure it out. Not the right wing, not the brosphere. Left of center, with humor and empathy.
You say something over and over again in kind of a funny voice, in kind of this voice.
What do you mean, Dan? What do you mean, Dan? Dan, what do you
Sounds
mean?
something like it sounds something like this. Okay, this is a little bit of a dated concept. What is it with everybody ordering a latte lately? Everywhere I go, yeah, I'm gonna have a latte. Can I have a latte? He'll have a latte. Can I have a latte? Yeah, we're having lattes. And what's what's the point? What's funny about that?
Well, that's the premise. That's the setup, Dan. Latte is not the punchline.
But and they're trying to kind of milk that.
Of course.
Having a
Yeah.
latte. Yes, it's a latte.
Listen, Seinfeld. Yes, that is I
What's
think
and
mugging, right? Like mugging is another one where they just make
mm-hmm,
funny faces at the
mm-hmm.
crowd. There's cheerleading, like who's with me? A
Who's
lot
with
of
me?
who,
Yeah,
ladies. Okay,
lady. Right.
fellas, that's a
It
real common
all
one.
kind of goes to being road. So when a comic is
Yeah.
described as being road, what that means is you're not so much doing something creative as you are using a formula to control a room,
Do you
right?
remember, very well put, do you remember, because I I was just telling my comedy class about this. Do you remember pulling me aside and saying, I can't remember how you said it, but you were like, yeah, you've been on the road a lot, huh? And I'm
I
like,
said that?
yeah, you pulled me aside, and I'd been on the road, and I've
Uh-huh.
been doing like a string of one-nighters, right, for
Mm-hmm.
like a month. And
Mm-hmm.
I came back very confident, but I came back with bad habits and
Mm-hmm.
like a lot of the things that you're saying, right? Like I definitely, and also you can say fuck a lot, and that just
Mm-hmm.
charges. You say fuck before a punchline, and that gives it a little extra juice.
Right. And when you're on the road, you just have a job to do.
You just have a job to do. You're
You
just
just
trying to,
gotta
yeah, you're
bring it.
being, you have to yell and be too loud. It just kills any kind of subtlety, but you're
Mm-hmm.
in a bar and but yeah, I think I was at the punchline, and it was a Sunday night. And I remember
Mm-hmm.
afterwards, you're like, yeah, yeah. And yeah, you were very gentle,
Wow.
but it did make me go like, okay, yeah, I think I get what Dan's saying. I think he just called me an asshole, and I feel offended. No.
Did did you take it well?
Yes and no. I mean,
Yeah.
I remember, like, what are you getting at? You don't remember this?
No, not specifically. I remember a lot of tense conversations we
With
had.
me?
You no, just in general, we were all very young and cocky,
Oh
and
yeah, 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 yeah.
sometimes we'd call each other out on our own shit in a way that was a little bit rude, or
Very
I
young.
hope I did it with the intention of helping or as a friend.
There, do you also, okay, so then there was another time.
Oh
You might
man.
remember, you might remember this.
Yeah.
You did not want to talk about this today.
No,
But
Jesus
uh,
Christ.
so
I got to
we're
make an amends here. Go ahead.
remember, no, 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 no. God, no, you do not have to. So Fourth and Clement was like the comedy house,
Mm-hmm.
right? And a bunch of us were living there, a bunch of comedians, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm in my room, and because we were all broke, right?
Yeah.
My room was the living room, so it was three walls and a sheet,
Yeah.
right? And that, so the sheet was like, but you guys, I couldn't remember what the circumstance. Either I was in there or you guys were in there, but
Mm-hmm.
you and Joseph were having a conversation about me,
Yeah, I remember that.
and
That
just
was
like how
bad.
I sounded like I was on the road, like I sounded like I was getting hacky, like I was picking up bad
That's
habits.
what we were talking about.
Yeah, you don't remember
Ooh,
the
I
specifics
remember
of that?
talking about you, and then you
Yeah,
walked in and you
yeah.
were like, "Yeah, thanks for talking about me." and then you walked out.
It
And
was like a
that was,
sitcom. It was
yeah,
a
that was the
sitcom.
world. We were living in a toxic world. We were all,
Well, I mean, yeah, the
it
house was toxic. We were
was
toxic.
really
The
toxic.
environment was toxic. It was
Yeah.
all, I mean, honestly, I laugh about it now.
Uh-huh.
But I remember that. And then I remember going into my room,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's my room, and like Joseph coming in, like there's no, like people would have to knock on the
Mm-hmm.
floor to pretend like there was a wall, right? And him just
They
coming in, and
would
I'm like,
mime it.
yeah, they would have
Uh,
and he just came in, and I'm like, hey, get out of here. And he goes like, oh, I don't feel very welcome in here right now. You're not, you know.
uh-huh.
It's like you didn't knock on the sheet. Like this, that was a real,
Knock on the.
real, people would just come in, and I'd be like naked or masturbating or like close, you know, like, hey, just because there's a sheet doesn't mean I'm
Yeah.
not entitled to some privacy. And they're like, whoa, I didn't realize you were into that. Like, just get out.
Yeah, that was right. And by the way, just to give a little color to this description, this was a condemned house. This was a disgusting, whatever.
Wait, come on.
It was
It wasn't that bad.
Oh, it was disgusting. It was the worst house I've ever been in.
No way. It can't be the worst house.
Yo,
Yo.
I didn't grow up with that much privilege. That place was gross.
It was gross. I mean,
That was
it was gross.
gross.
You could
Oof.
see there was a hole in the ceiling above the refrigerator where you could look up and see the bathroom. And we always used to wonder, like, I wonder what day it's going to be when the bathtub
Mm.
comes through the ceiling and crashes into the refrigerator.
Yeah.
I wonder who's going to be taking a shower when
Yeah.
that actually happens.
That I when I look back on that house and I didn't even live there, it registers as kind of a bottom for me.
Oh my
It
God.
does.
It registers as kind of a
Yes,
bottom
it's a
for you.
bottom.
I lived there.
I know. I'm empathizing. It was a bottom. It was the I don't have fond memories of that house.
Oh my God.
It was
Wow. You
disgusting. It was I
yeah.
don't know I sound like my mother. I'm sorry. Very judgmental. It's how
That's
she talks
okay.
about my
That's I mean, you're
that was a
right.
that
You're
was a
right.
sad
It was a sad place.
it was a sad place. It wasn't I mean wouldn't
So if you remember properly, right? There
Mhm.
was so at one point, like to me, when I think about that house, Tony D was always
Mhm.
over there because him
Mhm.
and Mike were
Yeah.
really good friends, and they
Yeah.
would play.
Dice.
They would play this dice game, not just dice. It was this dice game from this Yugoslavian guy, right, that moved into the
Oh
house.
yeah.
Remember
Oh
him?
yeah. Yeah.
He's really tall, and he talked like this, and he would paint in his room, and I would teach you a dice game that inmates used to play, and they became addicted to the dice game,
Yeah.
right? And then there was Joseph upstairs, right? Remember Joseph?
Yeah, he's passed on.
He's passed on. And Lori, I don't know if you remember
Mhm.
Lori. And
Of
Lori,
course.
she lived there after all of us had left. She still lived there for like another 10 years before she finally got out. But to me, and then, yeah, like Tony was always over there. You would drop by. Now I know how you really felt.
Mhm.
I had some girlfriends in the situation who,
Mhm.
you know, it was just like living in a sad, dilapidated sitcom, but there were moments. I will say that there were
Yeah.
like some extraordinarily hilarious, extraordinarily sad, extraordinarily pointed moments.
Mhm.
I think about that house probably once a month at least.
I think about it um once every other month. But I do think about that era of my life as the golden time.
Mm,
It was to be immersed in the cultural artistic center of a city
yeah,
in your 20s, showing
yeah,
up at the punchline
yeah.
Sunday after Sunday. Eventually, you're getting sets and you walk in with a little bit of confidence, and
Yeah. Yeah.
there was nothing. It's really unmatched,
That was a
and
magic time.
it was absolutely magic. And I would imagine, and for a long time I missed comedy so much, and then I kind of realized I don't exactly miss it in a way I want to go out and do it right now. I just miss being young.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
great way to be young while it lasted.
Since we're going down this nostalgia
Mm-hmm.
avenue at the moment, so I can't remember what the circumstances were. It might have been, we might have been on the phone with each other sometime after Joseph's passing, and Joseph was this larger than life um character who
Mm-hmm.
was in comedy and improv, but Joseph was also he was basically living his life as a con man, not a very
Mm-hmm.
good con man, but you know, and when he passed away, a lot of stuff came up for a lot of people. Things I never even knew about, people came forward, and I heard
Mm-hmm.
more stories about the guy. But I think we might have been on the phone, and I was living elsewhere, and I don't know if you knew that I was drinking again or whatever, but
Mm-hmm.
I remember asking you, you know, do you miss comedy? And you
Mm-hmm.
said something that stuck with me, and kind of stuck with me in an uncomfortable, oh shit, I probably need to do some self-examination kind of a way.
Mm-hmm.
You said that you now have excitement for your life like you used to have for comedy.
Really?
You remember that?
No, I'm glad I said that. I didn't.
Oh,
I didn't
buddy.
know that was true. I, I didn't know I was. I'm excited about my life. Cool.
Well, I
I'll
was
buy it.
this was maybe 10, 12 years ago,
Oh,
but
still though, still, I'll buy
yeah,
it. I'll
you'll
take it.
buy it.
Okay. What was I
It's
doing then?
I don't know. What were you doing like 10,
You know
12
what?
years
Yeah,
ago?
you know what? What happened was I was maybe in grad school or a new therapist, and I was really into. I was sort of incorporating humor into what I was doing. I was doing benefits. Yes, you know what? Something that I've taken for granted now that my life has kind of leveled out is I did get a big self-esteem boost just by getting a life, by
Hmm.
going, and I mean, you have a life as well.
I have a life, but it's still very much tied to comedy, and
But that's a life. It's not that we
yeah.
didn't have a life back then, but it was all a bit delusional. It was all based on, I mean, it was all based on
Uh
making it.
yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I'm doing good and then I'm going to make it. And I think that's my way of saying I'm kind of making it. And sometimes I'll tell you something. Not just thinking about it right now, that mentality still kind of haunts me.
Hmm.
Because right now, for instance, I have this solo practice, which is going well in terms of I work every day for myself here in this place. So I got to be doing something well, right? I mean, I'm self-employed and I have an income, but I'm have this nagging feeling like you're this is not enough. It's a bush league solo practice. You got to kick it to the next level. You got to make something, be something. And it's almost like that show business
Yeah.
mentality of somehow I think I'm going to wind up in lights or
So right now, would you describe your practice as a opener therapist, a middle therapist, or a
wow.
headliner therapist?
That's crazy because that was my topic.
No way.
That's crazy. Wow.
Really?
Okay. Right now, I'm a feature act.
Really? Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
So this is what I was going to talk about
No
last time. I
way. Okay.
swear
This is
to God,
beautiful.
I was
This
saying
is beautiful.
everything I've learned about life and parenting comes from the comedy structure. And what I'm trying to do in my life and what I want my son to do is to headline in whatever they do. And
Hmm.
here's my definition of a headliner. I think Dan Gabriel said this once. A headliner is the guy that goes up last. If you've ever been to a comedy show, opener, feature, headliner. Okay. A headliner goes up last, does 45 minutes to an hour. And it's not just that they're the funniest people. A headliner can hold the crowd's attention
Yeah.
in the last 15 minutes when the checks are being passed out.
Yeah. Yeah.
A headliner can establish himself, put their balls on the line and say, I'm going to carry the show on my back. And headliners, they range in funny and charisma, and there's all different kinds of headliners, but either way, if you're able to headline, you're putting yourself out there in a way as if to say, I'm trying to be the best I can be. I'm trying to be an expert in my field. Whereas a feature act, which is what I am here, I was a feature act in comedy. I'm a feature act as a therapist, and I'm trying to headline. And that just means I'm trying to be great at it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And be the kind of person that, I guess, what would a headliner therapist do? I train people. I'm considered kind of an authority on certain aspects of it. And I'm kind of sought after as opposed to just blending in.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's a lot of feature acts, and I think there's a lot of feature acts. So the thing about the feature spot in comedy is it's the sweet spot. You do 30 minutes, right? When the crowd is hot. So the opener gets them warmed up. You go up, you do 30, you get off, right? And you feel great.
The cake slot.
It's cake. You get off. A lot of people think, God, I like the feature more because it's so much easier. But you also can't make a living as a feature, and you can't really make a name as a feature.
Yeah.
But most people in life settle on featuring.
It's hard to find, because here's the other thing about headlining.
Mm-hmm.
There's also some X factor. There's something about not just their point of view or their delivery or their personality. There's some way that the headliner has to get you to see the world through their eyes.
Mm-hmm.
So when you leave, you might not remember any of the jokes, but you do remember, oh man, I like their take on this, or oh, that was this person made me laugh a lot. And I can imagine that as a therapist, you want people leaving going like, wow, that really helped. That was, I don't know what happened there, but I'm leaving feeling better. And I think that jump from feature to headliner in comedy, they'll say like, it's just 15 more minutes,
right?
But it's not. No, it's not.
Everything.
It's something.
You are the show.
You're the show. There's something more.
For those of you who love comedy, it's my mother.
Oh, yeah. Don't
Danny,
answer. Yeah.
Heckling me. Oh God. For those of you that love comedy, it's amazing what certain comedians can do with a room who have the gumption to go beyond being funny. Who funny isn't enough. They want to say something, or they want to make you feel a certain way, or tell a joke in a long form fashion. And it really is. That's what separates the features from the headliners. That's what separates artists.
There's a force of personality. There's a degree of performance that wherever, because I can remember like, and I'm sure you remember this too, and you'd see this sometimes on Sunday nights where everybody you knew going up doing like a 7-minute set, you knew everybody and you knew that they were pretty good, and some people were stronger than others, but occasionally you'd have somebody drop in, or a big name headliner come by, and they would go up and you'd be like, oh, right.
That's force of nature, presence.
Just
my dad, I remember my dad came to see me. I was opening for Greg Proops. And I said, "What did you think of Greg Proops?" My dad said, "He's too big for the stage."
Mm,
I was like, "Yeah, that's a headliner."
yeah.
Greg Proops, Dave Attell, Bill Burr, etc. These guys, it's beyond being funny or having a little more time. So a headliner has hours of material. They're not stringing together until they get to an hour.
Yeah, they're making choices about where to go
Yeah.
on the fly. They're riffing, but it's all seamless, and you're not sure how they're doing it and pulling it off.
Right.
It's just when you're witnessing it and you're in the moment, it's like, oh my God, this is amazing. And when they leave the stage, people can't help but just go like, oh my God, that was amazing.
Yeah.
You know, whereas a lot of us are like, I mean, some nights, I mean, I don't feel like I'm at the top of my game anymore, but there were nights where I was not just the last guy going
Mm-hmm.
up, I was the headliner,
Yeah.
right? Like there's some extra
Right.
oomph, right? And yeah, these nights or these days, sometimes I feel like, yeah, I'm the last guy on the show. You know, I'm gonna bring it, and you're gonna go like, yeah, that was a pretty good show. But you know what I mean? Like there is,
Okay.
especially when you're like you're younger and you're trying to make your mark and you're hungry. And then there's also like if you want to continue this metaphor, right? Like
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times you might be featuring in the city,
Yeah.
right? Opening for some huge name, but then you're on the road doing one-nighters and you're the headliner, right?
Right.
And you would learn, I
And I
think,
did
yeah,
some
you
of
did
that.
that.
That's
You
the
did that.
beginning of
Yeah.
headlining.
Yeah.
And um and just to bring it back to like how that applies to like what does that mean when I say I want my son to headline and what he's doing?
Yeah. What does that mean?
What that means, like for instance, my son is really into cosplay. He's a costumer. Um, and so he
May
does
I
comic.
just may I just say I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Oh, okay. I know. I
Yeah,
know.
I'm sorry, buddy.
I know. Again, it's sorry. This is your dream kid, Joe.
I know. It's
I'm like,
hilarious.
why do I
It's
have Joe's
hilarious.
kid?
It's yeah, God, that's amazing.
It's
Yeah.
yeah, incredible costumes. Darth Sidious, Darth something, Darth bunch of Darths. I don't. You should
Oh,
you
bunch
should
of
hang out with
darts.
my son. You guys have a lot to
Yeah.
talk about.
I'm if he's as big a Star Wars fan as you're saying he is,
Oh,
yes. Yeah.
okay. So anyway, um, so I mean, so he's a costumer. Um, a feature act costumer is going to have it as a hobby and go to cosplay or Comic Con like he does now, and that's a thing he does. I'm trying to help him sort of headline by he's doing this thing Capes for Kids where he makes capes for chronically ill kids.
Jeez, wow.
So it's like yeah, it's really cool. Like superhero, he gets their
How
logo.
old is he?
He's 15.
He's 15 and he's doing this.
Yeah. And so he
Wow.
gets their initials. It's like finding the hero within you.
Right.
And I'm not truthfully, it was kind of my idea and he's doing it, but the idea is kind of let's make this into something special. You know, and you're finding the line of being a hovering helicopter parent saying you're not enough, but I want my son to go for it. Headline, do something special, do something creative with your
Yeah.
talent.
Master the field you're in.
Master it because
Yeah.
it's one thing, you know, you talked about bringing your best. Like, you ever notice there's a lot of really, really good people, there's few great people.
Yeah.
Like, I remember Greg Barrett. I remember when he went from good to great. And it's subtle, but that's what's hard to do in life.
It's like a little turn of a screw that I have that vivid memory
Like,
with Arj Barker.
yeah, yes.
Like I remember watching Arj and just being like, man, this guy is really, really good. And then I don't know what happened. I'm not sure even those guys know what happened. But you know, he came back after traveling and doing gigs, and it was like little, you know, he turned the screw just right here, and then it was like, oh
found
yeah,
it.
he found it. He found it. And
Um,
yeah,
Louis C.K., all the controversy aside, I mean, he went
Back
from
in the
good
day.
to great. He
Yeah.
went from absurdist guy, and when I look at my life, my son's life, that is how I look at it. I want to headline.
Yeah.
And somehow, I mean, how would I define that? It's not that I'm going to do comedy, but okay, here's the point. If you were up in front of what do you have to say to a crowd for 45 minutes? And
Yeah.
if you're great at what you do, or you're courageous in your life, you're going to have you've got something. Finding your voice to the best you can, leaving your footprint, living your values, all that bullshit. You know what I mean?
All that bullshit.
All that bullshit I spout here in the therapy room. And then there's the opener, right? So how does an opener apply? Like, to me, an opener is, ages like 12 through college, young adulthood. You're an opener. Okay. So the opener in a club, you can get work after a couple of years. You're doing 15 minutes and you're not really making any money yet. You don't really have a career yet because you're not, you have a day job. But at the same time, you face the biggest challenge in certain ways, right? So I look at being an opener kind of like going to high school. In some ways, life never gets harder. You know what I mean? Think of how.
I mean, I think, again, like if people have seen comedy, right?
Mm-hmm.
The guy who's going up first to warm you up is the comic with the least amount of experience.
Right.
And
It's interesting.
that's a huge challenge. It does make you a better comic, and it does give you the incentive to, like, man, I need to move up. I need to get to feature status.
Mm-hmm.
And the crowd, much like in high school, will oftentimes be cruel or
Yeah.
dismissive.
It's high school.
It's high school, right? And,
Yeah.
and you're just like, hey, I'm just trying to figure this out and maybe make you laugh.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're like, no, we're supposed to heckle you, right?
Yeah,
This is fun.
yeah,
And you're
yeah.
dying. Yeah.
You're dying up there. Sometimes you can look in their faces and like, oh my God, just bring on the next act,
Yeah.
but yeah, you're right. You're right.
So that's where we begin in life. We're opening. And maybe that means, how does that metaphor apply to life? You're trying this out, you're trying that out, you're in the beginning. And on the one hand, the show's not on your back and there's not a lot at stake. But on the other hand, it's really hard. It's like an entry level job. You're stuck with the shit. And you need to have a great attitude and sort of prove your worth. And so,
and people can get stuck there too. People can get stuck as openers, and either for fear or lack of ambition, or just they were good, but they were never quite good enough to make that next jump.
Right. Yeah. And
like,
think about it. We all know openers in our life. We all have friends that not necessarily living at home, but close.
Yeah.
You kind of don't get the whole life thing together. Most people are features. Settled in, I think of that Will Ferrell sketch of, I drive a Dodge Strata, you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. You're okay. You got a car. It's not a great
management.
car. Yeah.
You got a Dodge, you got khakis, you go to work.
You got khakis.
And that's it. And my guess is the reason a lot of us fall into kind of a midlife crisis is because we never tried to headline. And I really believe that headlining is important in life. That's why you have these actors that never stop working, because they love it.
Yeah. I mean, the metaphor might break down a little bit, but I do.
No.
I mean, I get what you're saying. Like, you have to take a risk. You have to also, like, the best headliners I've seen are always the ones that have some vulnerability and some uniqueness. Also, and then, not to be cynical, but also a lot of the biggest headliners are the ones that are very hacky and derivative and are just doing the same old.
Yeah.
But they've captured the attention of the public in some way.
Right. And that's okay. And granted, so there's going to be hacky headliners. And you could argue, well, you shouldn't be a hack, but you're headlining. I mean, there's going to be a different
Yeah, yeah.
degree. Well, who? Okay,
Is
I don't
there
want to name names. Who's a who? Give me one because we need an example here.
um I'm afraid to say any names that are big because God forbid someone should watch this and then come back to us like, how dare you
Eh,
peons?
just I'm not even trying to hate on anyone. I just who in
Um
your opinion?
now I'm blanking on names. I think, yeah, it's shutting down in my head because I don't want to get myself in
You
trouble,
don't.
but there's who was who's the guy from Mad TV? Because nobody even likes him. Um, Black guy,
Oh,
everything
Ari
was
Spears.
Harry Spears. Like he's to me, he's incredibly hacky.
Okay.
Everything is like, where's my black people at? And that's 10 minutes on every black stereotype. How about my Asians? And then 10 minutes on every
Okay.
Asian stereotype.
Okay. So it's formulaic
It's very
and
formulaic. He's pretty much coasting on a show that hasn't been on the air in 25
right,
years. His
right.
audience, he's not bringing in new audience. It's the same audience that laughed at the same shit the last time, but he's just on the circuit, of
Uh-huh.
playing the same clubs. I mean, he's making a lot of money. I don't think he's a
Yep.
happy guy either, like seeing him up close. But, guys like that, comedians like that, yes, they are headlining.
Uh-huh.
But they're not bringing any joy. They're not bringing any uniqueness. They're not bringing anything new to it. I mean, I
Mm-hmm.
think, and maybe also like he's stuck in the clubs too.
Yeah.
Headlining today means you're
Right.
you're getting into a theater and there's no drinks, there's no nachos, there's no cocktail servers.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, hey, we're there to see you perform.
So in a sense, yeah, there's different levels of headliners, and you could argue in some ways, yeah. But I guess what like, for instance, when I think about, okay, as a therapist, a headlining therapist has a good positive word of mouth, and people are going, is your teenager having trouble? Go see him. I'm telling you, it really helped. Like, that's what I want.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Okay,
As opposed
yeah.
to a feature therapist is most therapists. Do you know anyone with vacancies? Because everybody,
Yeah,
oh,
yeah,
here's this guy. Let's try it.
yeah.
I want to be the guy that,
Yeah, you don't want to be a therapist. You want to be Rothenberg.
yes.
Yeah,
Yeah. I
yeah.
mean, that kind of,
But I mean, I'm not even joking.
you're
It
right. No,
sounds,
you're
but you
right.
know what I mean? It's just like,
That's what a
who
headliner does.
are you seeing a
Sells
therapist?
tickets.
Sells tickets.
Yeah.
Exactly.
I
And
want
people
my,
want to see you.
yeah, I
They
want
want
my
your
son to
opinion.
be able to make his talent into, and it's not all about career. It's just about thriving.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
about um, continuing to get better when it gets hard,
Hmm.
and
Yeah.
it's kind of a stick to itiveness that makes you stand out. That is a headliner.
Let me, okay. So to play with this metaphor a little bit and to just bitch a little bit. So I had a
Yeah,
show
please.
recently, very, very recently this week.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Um, and it was one of those shows, and I'm sure every comedian can identify with this. Um, I never felt like I could get out of second gear. I never
Mm-hmm.
quite felt like the crowd would be with me, and I felt like we're okay. You're
Yeah.
taking the ride with me, and
Mm-hmm.
then they'd slip away, and I couldn't quite get them. And then I'm riffing, and
Uh-huh.
the
Yeah.
riffing is like, it's okay, but then again, it would like slip away, and I was in my head at a
Where was
certain
the
point.
show?
Punchline. It was at the punchline.
Okay. Okay.
And and then here's the odd thing that also happened, which will happen from time to time, and it's a good reminder that you might not always think it's going great,
Mm-hmm.
but after the show, so many people came up to me and they were so complimentary. They
Mhm.
were so just like, oh my God, that was great. We really enjoyed you. You were awesome. And in my head, I'm like, were they watching the same show? Because man, I just
Mhm.
felt like it was pulling teeth sometimes, and I just
Mhm.
felt like it, at one
Yeah.
point I'm doing that comic thing where I'm looking in the back of the room like, well, the light's gonna come any second,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
like, come
Looking for
on,
the light.
looking
Oh
for the
God.
light. It just, and and then after the show, people were just so nice. And I remember
Mhm.
years and years and years ago, um, as a feature. It was featuring,
Mhm.
right, at the Punchline. And I didn't think I had a great show. And people were, hey, I really enjoyed you. And I'm like, yeah,
Mhm.
I kind of messed up this one thing. And, just like the string of people and me telling them, no, you're wrong. And it was
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
was Proops of all people. And Proops after the show is like, what do you tell you? You're telling them that they're wrong.
Yeah.
Take the compliment.
Totally.
All right. They
Totally.
loved the show. They loved you. Just
Yeah.
enjoy it. Take the compliment. Shut the fuck up. Don't
Right.
ruin their night by having them go, he
Yeah.
was so funny. And then you're like, it wasn't that good. Like, why
Yeah.
are you doing
Bad.
that?
Right.
Yeah.
You want to eat it again.
Yeah.
You want to eat
Yeah.
it
Like,
off
don't,
stage
don't,
and on
don't
stage.
relive it. Don't,
Totally.
they
Totally.
loved you. Have
Because
fun.
people, on the one hand, audiences can be really, really cruel. On the other hand, they could be very, very generous. They saw you working hard, sticking with it. You're funny. That's it.
Yeah.
It's not.
Yeah.
It's not life and death to them. It is to us.
To us. I mean,
Right.
and I think sometimes there's there's not the realization. What's going on in your head and how you think about yourself as a
Hmm.
headliner is not always what everyone else is seeing,
Right.
right? And for good and for worse, like sometimes you can't be delusional and have a shitty show and go, man,
Yeah.
that was great. There's plenty of that out there,
Hmm.
but yeah, it was another just like, it was sort of a ho-hum show. I didn't really get into it. And then people were like, we loved you.
One time you had a. Okay. You mind if I give you a little shit?
You already called the house that I lived in your bottom.
It it was my bottom. I had my
But it was
bottom.
my house,
I
dude.
know I had and I was
Your
sober.
bottom
I
was
was sober. That's how bad. I hit a sober base bottom in your house.
that is so
You had. I
sad.
love you. Okay, I love.
That is
First of all,
so
before I say this, I
sad.
love you.
Oh
Okay.
no, this is gonna be bad, isn't it? Oh no. Oh
Don't worry
no.
about it.
Go ahead.
I've
Go
done
ahead.
so much
Let
worse.
me let me get 911 ready on the phone. Let
You
me just
had.
dial 91. Go ahead.
All right. You had a week. It was just like a week. You had just worked with a tell,
Oh fuck.
and you were all a telled up. You know how you were charged. You had a great week, and you had kind of bonded with him, and you had decided to take no more shit from the crowd,
Yeah.
and it was a little, a little much. It was a little. It was vis. You were
Come
like,
on, say it. Bring it. Come
you were
on.
like, you kept doing this thing. You were like, come on, crowd, don't even fucking start with me. Come on. And it happens to all of us when you work with a tell, and then suddenly everything's here.
But there
And then you
I
stopped. You stopped after a
yeah.
week.
Do you remember though, like Attell? I mean, he's not around as much as he used to. I
Mm-hmm.
think he's very happy and he's comfortable with his level of
Mm-hmm.
success, but he was around a lot and he was just a force of nature on stage. And
Mm-hmm.
comics would come out to see him, and for like a week afterwards, everybody sounded like Attell. That
I
cadence, that
know.
delivery,
Everyone. Yeah.
everybody,
Because you wanted to be
you
that
wanted to
so
be
bad.
that, and
And it
people would
seems
pick
so
it up.
simple.
Yeah, and people would pick it up, and then
Yeah.
it would show up in their act, and it's like, well, you're doing a bad Attell impression with your shitty jokes. That's
Yeah.
awful. Like nobody
That's
wants that.
doubly bad.
That's doubly
Yeah.
bad. Yeah,
We all,
yeah.
because it's so, there's nothing I would like, okay, there's nothing more fucking enviable and enraging as someone that's just got this hilarious affect that's not shticky. It's true to them.
It's true. It's natural. It's organic.
It's
Yeah.
just
Mitch
it's just
Hedberg is another
Mitch
guy
Hedberg,
that
David
everybody
Tell, Arj
copied.
Barker.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, fuck.
Louis C.K. I mean, in his own, weird.
I would say he's less like that. He is. He's talent-wise amazing on so many levels, but I'm talking about just a thing,
Yeah, just how they deliver it.
just a
Yeah,
golden delivery.
yeah.
That
And that Attell week, I remember that week that you were talking about because he was like we did kind of bond, and I kick myself because I remember him telling me like, okay, you know what you're doing now, you got to turn it up. You gotta turn
that
it
was the
up.
week. That was
Yeah.
the week.
And I
And
was
then
like, I don't
then
know
you
what that means. Turn
you
it up.
tried to turn it
I
up.
tried to turn it up.
It was all right, yeah.
And I'm like, I don't, but then he did this. I don't know if I'm sure I told you this. He gave
Yeah.
me his phone number,
Mm-hmm.
and said like, give me a ring sometime. We'll talk.
Right.
And
And at
he's
the
just like,
time, it doesn't occur to you, yeah, do it.
you got it. But I was
Yeah.
so terrified. It was
Right.
like I got the pretty girl's phone number,
Right. Now I'm just gonna
and now I'm
frame
gonna
it.
sit on it, and I'm not
Yeah.
gonna share
I
it.
know.
And I remember him telling me like, you're a really good joke writer. Now, you gotta take it up a notch. You gotta find a little
Right.
bit more. And I felt like, he could have taken me on the road. He could have,
Mm-hmm.
and I failed to really
Right.
capitalize on that opportunity, and I kicked myself for it.
You and I, when I look at the success stories of many of our friends, a lot of it just has to do with a fundamental belief in themselves. It's just they would use that number,
Yeah.
call him, like this is what would happen. Call him, and then they wouldn't get a call back, and then run into him and be like, "Hey, what's up?" Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Keep
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
rolling, keep
You keep
falling
real.
forward.
I
For
think
some of us, it was
yeah,
just too much desperation.
it it
And
it was also, I mean, it was just fear too. Like,
yeah,
wait a minute, what do I say to fucking Dave Attell? This guy's like a comedy idol. He's an
right.
incredible joke writer. And there was when he would come into town, I was extraordinarily lucky because he would say like, "Hey, is Joe available?"
Yeah, yeah.
Right? And again, like, Joe,
Hmm.
this it's like, "Hey, Joe, the hot girl that you imagine taking you somewhere really nice to fuck you
Right.
wants to take you away and fuck
It's
you."
too scary.
And
It's
it's
too
too
scary.
scary. I'm
It's
like,
just
well,
too scary.
he can't
It's just
possibly like me,
I don't
you
want to. Right.
know?
What if I go out with her and then what?
Then what?
It's
Then what?
really fear of success is a real thing. I never thought of that. It's a real
It's
thing.
a real thing. And I think it comes out in weird ways. Like at the time,
Yeah.
I did not associate that with fear of success, but I was
Right.
afraid to actually succeed.
Yeah. And I'm faced with the same stuff happens today.
Yeah.
You get it's the whole you get opportunities.
Do you think like a lot of features in life, like a lot of get stuck because an opportunity presents itself and then for whatever reason they can't grab it?
Yeah, I would say so. Some people don't think to be ambitious, and maybe they don't want to be, or maybe they weren't raised that way. Or yeah, I think one. So I mean, it's not to say everybody has to be the best at what they do or strive to be more than they are, but I think for me, I want to try to headline. I want my kid to try to headline. To me, I can't help but believe there's a self-actualization that comes with that. There's a happiness and an emotional development that kind of comes with that as opposed to settling into, well, you just go to work and it's work. It shouldn't be fun.
Yeah. 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 No, that's awful. Well, I think it's good to leave our listeners
I'll tell
with,
you a magical, let's leave it with here's you know how you have some of my magical weeks in comedy were as an opener because that's golden.
yeah,
You're so
you're
happy to
you're
be there.
hungry, you're thrilled to be
Yeah.
there.
And you're just a part of the
And
show.
you can oftentimes the opener can have one of those sets where you could steal the show
Mm-hmm.
because the crowd is not expecting the opener to do
Right.
well.
Just like, right. And that's another thing about being young and being in high school. If you got chutzpah, everyone's on your side.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you actually have a rare opportunity to be naive and ambitious, and people are gonna get excited about it or mentor you. But anyway, it was Mitch Hedberg's one of his first
Mm.
headlining weeks, and he was really catching steam.
Yeah.
And it was just a great week, and a lot of my friends came, and it was just a golden week. And so we were getting into this routine. I do an okay Hedberg impression. So he was, Mitch Hedberg, for those of you who remember him, he was starting to have trouble not passing out on stage. And and he came for a very sad ending. It was
Yeah.
tragic.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
this was like a week before it started getting bad. This was when he would hold it together enough and the crowd would be half of the drama of the set was him getting through it. And he would start to do this thing. He would get to the front of the stage, with the hair and start to bob and weave.
Mm-hmm.
And so in the middle, he would need to go to the bathroom in the middle of his set. And he'd have me come up and do him for a couple of minutes. And I would do his jokes. I'd be like, table for Dufresne. Ha ha. Bush, party of two. But what happened to the Dufresnes? No one seems to give a shit. Who can eat at a time like this? People are missing.
We need a search party.
Bush, search party of two. You can eat once you find the Dufresnes. So I would do it. He would.
Oh, that's great.
It was he would come, and so true story. This was before Lynn Shawcroft, I think.
Yeah.
He was dating this person.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure he once did a joke. It's a really funny joke. He did a joke. I don't have a girlfriend, but I do know a girl who would be really angry to hear me say that. And I'm pretty sure this was her.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So Mitch is headlining the Punchline in San Francisco, and this girl, I'm not sure her name, had kind of tracked him down and shown up.
Mm-hmm.
And so he comes up to me after a show. He goes, Dan, kiss me in front of that girl. At the time, I was into guys. Long story.
Just a minor little part of the story. Yeah.
It wasn't he wasn't randomly asking me that. But
this is beautiful.
They go, Dan, kiss me in front of that girl. And before I could say, what?
No.
He laid one on me.
Wow.
Professional. By the way, totally consensual. This was not, he didn't have power over me. I don't look back at it at all like that. But the interesting thing was, it was such a full-on kiss.
Yeah, he committed.
It wasn't an ironic kiss.
That was a headliner kiss.
It was a headliner.
Yeah.
All in.
If I'm doing this, I'm doing it.
For a second, we were both locked on.
Why do birds suddenly appear? Yeah.
Mitch Hedberg.
Yeah.
And then this is the funny part. Then the evening goes on. Maybe we do a second show. And at the end of the night, he goes, okay, see you tomorrow. Kisses me again. Kisses me goodbye as if to cap it.
Yeah.
He's a gentleman.
Yeah, he's a gentleman.
So I see you tomorrow. He gives me another good one.
Yeah.
And then he went off into the night, Mitch.
Yeah, to find the girl who would be angry to find out she's not his girlfriend.
And then the next day, I remember Mallow was the feature. Mallow's like, no kiss, hello?